So my name's Rob Chevalier. I was hired as a police officer in 2007, and I started this role with Aber, the neighborhood community police officer, in November of 2017.
Hi, I'm Amber Smith, and I started my position here as a village town neighborhood community officer November 2017.
I bet you're wondering, there's neighborhood policing? What's the difference between that and regular policing? Well, there are several different types of policing. Primary response policing is the most commonly known and is very different compared to neighborhood policing.
So primary response responds to higher priority radio calls. They drive squad cars around, and they are literally just reactionary. So they're getting a call and they're responding to the calls. Dealing in the primary response, I feel like it can get a bit emotionally draining and physically draining too, because you are going, especially in a busy downtown division, you're going call to call to call. So it's more of a sort of a Band-Aid solution. They're called in afterwards, so there's nothing that they can do preventative. Whereas neighborhood policing tends to be very pro-action. So we're going out, engaging with the community, building relationships with community members. Also, people who are homeless, people who live on the streets, building relationships with those people, seeing things maybe before they become a problem and addressing them, looking for solutions within the community, strengthening the resolve and the resiliency of the community as well. And a lot of the times putting a sort of a face and a name to the uniform.
I would say, if I had to guess, I'd say probably at least 60 to 70% proactive, and then 30 to 40% reactive, because we still do answer the radio. We still get dispatched to things in our area. And then if radio calls do come in the areas that we patrol, we already sort of have a good baseline for the people that we're dealing with, and also maybe have a little bit more information than the primary response unit might have if they were responding to the same radio call. So basically we start off at the station. We check our emails to see if there's anything pressing or pending that we have to do that day, just to keep informed on what may be happening. We also have a journal that we write in, and so when we come in on a Thursday, which is our first day in, we have a look at the journal and see what if we have things planned for certain days of the week. So we have a look-see, what do we have to do today? And it's basically just administration. And then we just get started. We typically come up to our area and we'll do something community-based first.
Very cool. Thanks, buddy. What do you think I can get? 3, or should I try for 2 first? Try for 2? Oh, airball!
So our neighborhoods is pretty complex. We have Church Wellesley and we also have St. Jamestown. So I always tell people it's almost like a 2-in-1 neighborhood. So the dynamics of both neighborhoods are quite different. So I find in Church Wellesley, we have a lot of underhoused homeless people who tend to have a lot of drug addiction or mental health problems. So we're sort of working with community agencies, trying to work with those people, try to get them help, try to get them off the streets if we can, or just try to make life better, a little bit better for them, if sometimes that's all we can do. We also have a very robust business improvement association in the area, and a residents association, Church Wellesley Neighborhood Association. So we work with those as well as the 519 Community Center, just to deal with any issues that are coming that are concerns for businesses or the community. A lot of the times we can just stop in and know the business owners by name, or some of the employees by name. And that helps us, especially if they do get a radio call, if they have a trespasser or they have somebody else. A lot of the times they have our cell phone numbers, and they've been able to text us to say, hey, they took a picture of somebody who is coming into their business and giving them a hard time. They can send us that photo, and we can actually 9 times out of 10 ID that person and say, okay, we know who that person was. We're going to deal with them. We're going to follow up with them. So that's been really effective. We have good communication with the business, and I feel like they hopefully feel supported by us.
These guys are the best cops in the neighborhood. They actually do stuff. I've seen them in action, looking out my back window.
And then into St. Jamestown, it's basically a lot less businesses and it's more just residents. So we work with the Wellesley Community Center as well as the Wellesley Community Corner at 200 Wellesley. We work with the staff there, just sort of addressing more residential sort of problems, break-and-enters, thefts. Sometimes while we're in the course of our duties, just patrolling or talking to people, there's incidents that happen. So sometimes there's like a theft or graffiti, and we'll actually go back to the station at the end of our shifts and we'll write a report on that, and we just make sure that gets an assigned occurrence and it moves its way onto an investigator. So at the end of our shift, we would generally go in to do that type of thing. I feel like you really need to have an experienced officer, because you will be tested by the community. They're gonna come at you with a lot of different scenarios, a lot of different. It's not necessarily just your reactionary policing. You have to come up with creative solutions. You have to have the ability to network with community partners. So I feel like having a good skill set and a good background coming into the role, it definitely is going to be advantageous, because I feel like if you maybe don't have as many tools in your tool belt that you're going to need to do the job, I feel like the community will sense that and maybe feel like, this police officer can't do for me what I need them to do.
When we first got here, first starting in the neighborhood, it was a bit of a learning curve to figure out like who lives here, who frequents here, who's just passing by, and what do people do. So it took a little while, and once we figured out who was who, basically, we can't solve certain things. We can't solve the homeless problem. We can't solve the drug problem, but we can try and work with people to try and help the people that need help in the community. Like, for instance, our presence in the neighborhood is probably the most valuable thing, because people see us and they can just come outside and flag us down and say, hey, Rob and Amber, could you come over here? We need your help with this. And we'll come over there and we'll see if we can help them with their issue, or building relationships with people you didn't think you'd have a relationship with. For instance, there's been some people who, because of their issues, addiction to meth and stuff like that, they tend to steal things. They're underhoused, so there's some anger issues due to they feel like they've been dealt like a bad card, and they can't seem to get out of the situation they're in. So we were approached by somebody who was living on the streets. We ended up helping this person who had a really bad meth addiction and had come to Toronto from Quebec and felt like they weren't accepted because they're trans. And we took this person under our wing and introduced them to a person who works at Sound Times, and they deal with addiction and mental health and stuff like that. And they help find people homes. They help with the social work aspect of things. They just try and help find these people like the basic necessities of life. And we took this person under our wing and we got her dental care. She had this really bad abscess tooth, and we found her a dentist. And then we helped connect her with some clothing. There's all different places. They have drop-ins and stuff. They have clothes for trans people. We hooked her up with some mental health care, and she's still on the streets now, but it's still a success story to us because she would never have gone to the dentist before, feeling as a trans person afraid because people want to judge right away and genderize you and stuff like that. Those same people that we never had a relationship before are like, oh, hey, how's it going, Rob and Amber? Like, nice to see you in the park and stuff like that. And it's like, wow, like never thought we'd have a relationship like that.
The service is getting good at recognizing what is this neighborhood that we're asking the police to go into, right? So obviously you mentioned that this is the gay village. So having officers that are from the LGBT community or who work very well as an ally in the community are important to have as community officers in that neighborhood. So when we started this role in 2017, it was from a really negative place. It was on the heels of the Bruce MacArthur investigation. He actually hadn't been arrested yet, but we also had a missing female who was actually found murdered And there was also a missing trans woman who was also found deceased a time later. And that was right around the time when we started. The policing relationship with the community was really at an all-time low. Like it hadn't been that low in decades. And we basically walked into that. So we had a big uphill battle to sort of overcome.
When they picked us for this specific area, they handpicked us for this area because we're familiar with this area and we already know some of the people in it. And we're comfortable being here and comfortable talking to people. And you have to have that sense of community and wanting to help and work with the community before you come in here.
One of the things that we helped do, myself and Amber, was run a hate crime stoppers campaign. So we posted hate's a crime, stop it posters that were made by Crime Stoppers, and we put those around to some of the local community centers and businesses just to draw some attention to that issue.
Yeah, it's a great job, honestly. Being in this community, I love this community. Helping people is probably my favorite thing. It's the most rewarding. Someone's having a bad day and they need police, and we're there to help them out.
In this role, we get to see people when they're having good days, right? We get to see what people's baseline behavior's like, and we get to establish relationships and network. And we're also not necessarily tied to the radio, which means we always have our radios on. We're always available, especially in our area, but we're able to do that much more. So I feel like it's a very rewarding and very interesting and unique experience that we've been sort of handed. And every day is a different day.
Want to find out if your neighborhood has a community officer? Go to www.torontopolice.on.ca/divisions to find your neighborhood and how to contact your community officers.